Welcome to the Governance SBC, November 23rd, 2023. We'll do a quick roll call. Councillor Croson.
Present.
Councillor Dodick.
Present.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Here.
Acting Mayor Middleton Hope.
Present.
Excellent. Also joining online is Councillor Carlson, I do see. So we're going to proceed. This is the first meeting since the organizational meeting into the election of chair and vice chair. As the city clerk designate, I will open the floor for nominations for the position of chairman.
I nominate Councillor Belinda Cruz.
Excellent. There's a nomination on the floor put forward to nominate Councillor Croson as chair. Councillor Middleton Hope, I see your hand is up.
Yep, that's what my nomination would be, Belinda.
Councillor Croson, do you accept? I will accept. You accept? Okay. Are there any other nominations for the position of chair? Seeing none, by acclamation. Councillor Croson, you are again chair of the Governance Standing Policy Committee. We will then proceed quickly into the election of the vice chair position. I will handle that for the new chair until the end of the nomination period. Do we have any nominations for the position of vice chair?
As vice chair.
Councillor Dodick, thank you, has put forward a nomination for Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, the position of vice chair. Councillor Middleton Hope, I see your hand is up. All right, seeing no other nominations, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, do you accept?
I do.
Seeing no other nominations, by acclamation, you are declared vice chair.
Sorry, did Councillor Dodick decline?
Oh, was there, pardon me, Councillor, we must have missed your nomination of Councillor Dodick? And Councillor Dodick in retrospectively is declining.
Isn't that nice? Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have been called to order. I'll do the acknowledgement statement, and then we'll go to the adoption of the agenda. The City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. City of Lethbridge is also the home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. Moving to the adoption of the agenda, we do have some changes, I believe, Mr. Westerson, if you could outline the recommended changes to the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two quick items to add. The addition of item 7.4 as a public item with regards to encouraging residents to complete the Local Authorities Election Act survey. And I believe that's coming from yourself and Councillor Middleton Hope. And then the addition of a closed confidential item for the confidential closed meeting, 8.3 intergovernmental relations under the sections of FOIP 21, 23, and 24.
So essentially, both of those are advocacy, and we will be putting advocacy as a standing item going ahead. But since we don't have it on this agenda, we will look to add those two to the agenda. I do have a motion.
Sorry.
From Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, be it resolved that the agenda of the Governance Standing Policy Committee meeting of November 23rd, 2023 be adopted as amended with the addition of those two items. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
I'll call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? And since Councillor Middleton Hope's not yelling at us, we will assume that is unanimous. Moving on to the consent agenda, I have a motion from Councillor Dodick. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Governance Standing Policy Committee meeting held on October 26, 2023 be approved. Okay. 2023 be approved and the chair and city clerk designate be authorized to sign the same. And further be it resolved that the status of initiatives for November 23rd, 2023 be received as information. Sorry, my stutter there was going, how is it already November? Councillor Dodick. That was your motion.
Call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? Excellent. Passes unanimously.
You're terrible.
So now we have three. You'd think, yeah. We have three confidential items So I will be looking for a motion to go in camera on sections 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3, under 24 and 25 for 8.1, 21 and 24 for 8.2, and 21, 23, and 24 for 8.3. Okay, motion's been moved by Councillor Dodick. All in favor? We are now in closed session.
you're in here right now.
Children.
Counselor Middleton Hope, can you hear us?
I certainly can.
Perfect, thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, for the millions of people watching us online, we did get started at noon. We went into closed session. We're coming back out of close for the Governance Standing Policy Committee. We have done acknowledgement statement, we have done roll call, we have quorum, and we are now on to submissions. So starting with submission 7.1 on the Standing Resolution Annual Update on creating a diverse and inclusive workforce. So Ms. Schaff and Mr. Witkowski, who's not here, so it's all you, Ms. Schaff. Is there anything that you really want to highlight? Not a full presentation, but is there anything you want to highlight before we ask any questions we may have? You're red, Ms. Minton.
Oh, I'm red. Red feels like no. Thank you very much, Chair Croson. I appreciate the question. The reason Kim Schaff, our Talent and Systems Development Manager, and I are here today, just in case you have any questions about the submission, what we'd like to highlight is we are here to affirm that the city continues to move DEI efforts forward. The rescinding of the resolution is simply to request that we do not report annually. And the reason being is that a couple things. The work continues. It is very operational in nature. If we're reporting each year, we tend to look potentially like the data's going backwards or we're signaling out individuals. So when we came here last year, we worked with the Prentice Institute, if you recall, with the University of Lethbridge, and they shared demographic information. But one of the things they said is there is a risk to such a short duration or interval of reporting. And they would recommend that we report every 2 or 3 years and also look at reporting internally so that we can operationalize the DEI efforts that we're making.
Thank you very much for that overview. Are there any questions from any members of the committee? Okay, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for the presentation. Sorry, there's some feedback coming back and I don't want to make everybody's ears bleed. Thank you very much for this. I certainly appreciate and understand the reporting back every 2 to 3 years, the 1 year being too short of a period time frame. But I am concerned about there not being any reporting back. So I'm wondering what the reporting back might now look like so that we can get some assurances that there will be reporting back. Like I said, I fully understand it, but I do have some concerns with reporting back not happening at all.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. Appreciate that. We will continue to report internally within the organization. So the request is to rescind the standing resolution, but to direct administration through the city manager to ensure these efforts are collected and moved forward, as well as meeting the objectives and reporting internally based on statistics. If demographic data, as we capture it, what we're finding is when we spoke with our Prentice Institute partners, they were saying, you know, there's one thing around reporting every 2 or 3 years. If you're going into individual reporting, annual reporting, you'll start to identify individuals or small groups that you're highlighting. So we will continue to report, though, internally. And if it's looking like Governance SPC wants to report out to the community, probably 3 years is the best indicator. The journey that we find DEI takes us on is a long one. And Kim and I were chatting the other day about the change in seatbelt legislation behavior, the change in smoking behavior. And it does take time. We have started the journey for DEI work in 2013. And there's been additions every step along the way. Strategies built, training brought in, engagement with new stakeholders, building of committees and employee resource groups. So that work will continue. The reporting structure would be internally based on what the city manager is directed by council.
So thank you for that information. The only concern with having solely internal reporting would be, well, there's a couple of concerns. One, this is of concern to the public because, of course, we are the corporation of the city of Lethbridge. So how would the public know that this is a priority or that this is being done? The other thing, in many communities, changing the workforce, the culture of the workforce, making the workforce more inclusive and inviting has been seen as a vital way of recruiting people. It's a way of, making sure that the best people are applying for the jobs. So how do you use that information to then, as I said, recruit appropriately to these jobs, and how will that be used?
Absolutely. I'm going to pass that question to Ms. Schaaf.
Thank you. So to speak to a couple of points, Councillor Croson, I think the first is around the reporting piece, and just circling back to that. Previously, we had surveyed on very specific visible characteristics of diversity, and what we're learning is that there are many non-visible characteristics of diversity that are difficult to report on. So within the parameters of the OBR and how it's written, we wanted to really have some flexibility in terms of how we report back. Currently, again, going back to the survey piece, the recommendation is every 2 years. And then also a broader survey around employee satisfaction, which includes factors of inclusion and belonging. Factors of inclusion and belonging take several forms. And so again, that's part of the journey of what we're trying to explore is how do we create a more inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees through programming, activities, learning, and so on. And so with that, I think, again, part of it is we can report on some of those tangibles, but there are some intangible pieces that are a bit more difficult to report on. And so we just don't want to look like we're going backwards when there is active work going on.
Okay, so what I'm trying to judge is if you have found the right balance, because trust me, I've been on the other side of boards, and sometimes by, giving really good reasons not to report is a way of, is an effective way, even though the work's being done. Sometimes it's a way of just kind of putting that on the corner of your table and not doing as much work on it. So the guarantee here is the work is getting done. It's just the reporting will be done in a different way over a different timeline.
Correct. Thank you. The other thing that's going to happen is, and you'll have seen it in the submission, the City of Lethbridge chose to hire Chris Witowski, who authored this report, to be able to lead on an 18-month term process building the IDEA corporate guiding plan. The reason why there's an A attached to our DEI is, of course, adding accessibility, both internal for staff, opportunities for recruitment, opportunities for growth and promotion, as well as making certain that we are looking at accessibility needs and tying those to capital projects in the future in the community. That IDEA corporate guiding plan will be done this time next year, moving into maybe even the January, February, first quarter of 25. That would be a wonderful time to come and speak to council, and as well as to get that message to the community, because it will provide a strategy, our vision, and our framework, along with an action plan of the work that not only our group in People and Partner Services needs to deploy, but all of the corporation as a whole.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel?
Just to follow up a bit on what Chair Croson had just said, I think too, some of what can be done with the work and reporting back to the community is being done through our recruitment efforts in the videos that we're using, because when somebody sees themselves reflected in those recruitment videos that we're using, they know that this is an important part of recruiting to the city of Lethbridge. So I would certainly encourage you to keep up that work to ensure that we are letting the community know how important this is to us. So more of a statement than a question. Thank you.
Councillor Middleton Hope?
Thank you. Whoops. Yes, there we go. Thank you, Ms. Mitt, for the presentation. My thought is in regards to the proof is in the pudding. So what kind of results are we seeing as a result of any actions that we're taking vis-a-vis looking at recruiting diversity, looking at recruiting people in general, and what kinds of successes are we experiencing?
Thank you. I'm going to turn this question over to Ms. Schaaf, just to be able to share the events and activities that we have been working on since we were here with you in November of 2022.
Okay.
Thank you. So since last year when we last were here, we have participated in a number of learning activities. So we've offered to employees unconscious bias. We've offered opportunities to participate in the Kairos blanket exercise. We coordinated voluntary participation in events like the Pride Parade. And we continue to embed IDEA learning through our manager cohort program. And then we are continuing to pilot new programs as well, such as allyship in the workplace. In terms of recruitment data, speaking back to last year as well, that's not information that we currently collect today in terms of demographic information of applicants. But again, we are looking at more alternate methods of recruitment in terms of more videos, more storytelling, to highlight to the community and potential applicants that we are a more diverse and welcoming employer.
Yeah, sorry, I don't get a sense that my question was answered. Perhaps you could take another stab at it. So are we finding that we are getting the kinds of applicants, the quality of applicants that we're looking for? You talked in terms of we're offering a bunch of programming and so forth to our current employees that would, I guess, engage them in understanding a variety of different diversity issues. So that's all very well and good. What I'm interested in is, so the efforts that we're making, are we finding success in terms of when we go looking for an engineer, are we finding that person? When we're going and looking for employee X with a particular set of skill sets, are our efforts reaping the types of rewards that we're looking for?
Thank you very much, Councillor Middleton Hope, for the question. You know, when we were preparing for today, Ms. Schaaf and I were going through the data of the workforce that we have today. And as we mentioned, November of last year, this was a self-selection. So people were able to self-select survey and also self-select the demographic data. So looking at today's people that are in the workforce and tomorrow's people in the workforce, we're not going to have a baseline. But what I can say anecdotally is we are starting to work with Lethbridge Immigration Partnership, and they have an employee working group we are now joining so that we can start to look at diverse groups of people coming into the workforce. Specific to your question about are we seeing applicants of a diverse nature, we are. However, we've also seen that our applicant pool is going down year over year for many of the positions across the organization, no matter what affiliation or who they are
Right.
in nature. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in. It's not whether we're attracting specifically diverse candidates, it's whether we're attracting qualified candidates. And if we are experiencing a downturn in the number of qualified applicants, particularly for very specialized positions, that's very symptomatic of what we see in the industry across the country. And I wanted to see whether or not we are experiencing some of the same types of changes. And then I think we need to be looking at, so what kinds of strategies can we utilize and are being utilized across the country that are generating some kinds of successes? Because we're experiencing some pretty acute shortages of qualified employees in Lethbridge in a number of different industries. So I'm encouraged to hear that, yeah, we're aware of it, we're working on it, and we're hoping to see some results, and you are going to be reporting back on that, I would imagine, in the not too distant future.
Absolutely, we can. One of the things that we have, of course, and it was not just because it was driven by the pandemic, but in 2019, we started working on the remote work program. The remote work program, along with alternative work weeks, along with the benefits, and of course, the wage that employees here at the City of Lethbridge have, are the foremost piece of bringing in those experts that you're talking about. There are some roles that we just cannot get to move into Lethbridge. And we're very aware of that. And so things like those programs in remote or alternative work weeks, or looking at revising our benefits program, those kinds of things, it's really important for us to stay on top of that because we are seeing no difference here in the City of Lethbridge than others are seeing across Canada in terms of work shortages.
Good. I think in terms of contracts and so forth, you're going to have to use your left elbow to nudge your colleague next to you there and get him to work on that. Good.
Well,
Thank you very much.
I could nudge this fellow, but he did give me the job a little while ago, so he's probably tired of me nudging.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Middleton. So one final question to tie this all together. We're not asking you to do this just to do this, right? It has a purpose, and it's to make sure that we have strong morale in our workforce, that we are competitive with other employees across the country, that, you know, all of this then ensures that we can serve the community well. How are those things going? Kind of following up on what Councillor Middleton Hope said, are we seen as a competitive workplace that people want to work at? Is the morale good? Just kind of sum up overall how this ties in and how our workforce is doing.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Crowson. You know, it's interesting because when we did our diversity and inclusion workforce survey, who's who in the zoo, for example, in August of last year, which drove the reporting that we did in November of last year, pardon me, people, because they self-selected, they overshared, and it was the first time we had had a survey since the beginning of the pandemic. So we heard a lot. And we really appreciate the time that our employees and our people leaders give to those surveys and giving us feedback. We chose purposefully to give, again, this whole reporting of intervals. We chose purposely to not survey again until next year. And the reason why is because we want to see if the programs, the supports, the resources we're putting in place are making a difference. So early in 2024, I would say by June, we have planned for an employee satisfaction survey, and I would prefer to bring that data back then because I would have a better snapshot. That said, the morale in the organization, it will be like anything that you have in corporations where you'll have it based on teams. So you'll have a collective morale that we want to be able to take a pulse. But what you will find also is you're going to have a different change in culture depending on the work group. And that's a good thing, we think, right? Because those work groups, they're the teams, they're your family you come home to when you come to work. And you have a different family you get to go home to when you get home. But here, we spend more time, when you think of the numbers, we spend more time with the people to our left and our right than we do actually the people in our home. And so it's really important to us that those work groups are fed and we do team building exercises and we're checking in and making certain that they're doing well. So if the governance committee would be kind enough to give us some time to be able to do that survey in the new year, I'd be happy to bring that back.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Do you have anything to add, Ms. Schaaf?
Just in terms of our efforts, I think in the evolution, back to Ms. Benton's earlier point, this is a journey. And so I think morale does continue to go up and down. We are excited to launch a survey again next year to see where our employees are at. We are also looking to launch a new performance management system, which includes the ability to run short surveys with employees and aggregate the data and focus on their mental health and well-being. And so we look forward to starting to collect that data as well in a more regular way and then sharing that with leadership to take action on where possible.
Perfect. Well, thank you all very much. I think that is all the questions, so we will go to the resolution. I have a resolution from Councillor Dodic. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommends that City Council, 1, rescind the below annual standing resolution from official business resolution 6.2, creating a diverse and inclusive workforce for the City of Lethbridge, adopted March 9, 2021. The City Manager report annually on efforts and achievements related to creating a workforce that reflects the community. And 2, direct administration to continue efforts in building and operationalizing the IDEA Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility Corporate Plan. Councillor Dodic.
Yes, wow, that's loud. Thank you. I think this the submission, together with the questions asked of the presenters, pretty well says it all. So I think it's all self-explanatory, and I would call the question, unless there are questions or some other comments to be made.
I don't see anyone in the queue, so the question's been called. All in favor?
In favor, I also would ask that John Middleton Hope smile. There we go.
I'm in favor of that too. Just kidding. All right. Thank you all for that. We move now on to policies. Everybody's favorite things. And we have 2 policies. 7.2 is looking at sponsorship, naming rights, and advertising, and 7.3 community capital projects grant. And we have Mr. Serebriansky. And not here yet. Oh, Kim, are you talking on this? We were hoping to meet our new policy person.
Yes, unfortunately, he can't make it, so come forward. 7.21.
Okay. All right. I suppose you know a little bit about sponsorship and everything?
Yes.
Okay. So just sort of explain to us what the changes are in this one, because you have made quite a few changes since you were last here not that long ago.
Yes, we weren't, it's only been since February. We've been working on the sponsorship for the last 6 months. By the time we had things in place, we kind of started up in May. But we found that working through past sponsorships, renewals, new opportunities, working with third parties, that it is time to bring forward to amend the sponsorship policy to include operational organizations of city properties. This would provide a base of requirements and a process for all boards, fee-for-service, and other organizations that operate these facilities. And for the purpose of the policy, we've identified them as operating parties. So the goal of the amendment to the sponsorship policy is not to hinder these organizations or limit their ability to raise funds, but to provide a consistent process, understanding between city departments and third parties how this policy applies, and see a minimum standard contract set to ensure they and the city are protected and it's fair for all organizations. Most of the changes that you'll see in here incorporate the operating parties. The rest of it kind of remained the same. The operating parties are named throughout the facility and its formal requirements of restrictions and processes. It incorporates a minimum standard of what is required by everyone in having a formal contract and the requirements that must exist within the contract. It allows operating parties to manage their own sponsorships following their own policies so long as it does not contradict or conflict with the city's policy. It identifies the roles and responsibilities of the operating parties, city departments, and processes between them. And then it clarifies the areas of the MX Center, the city, and the operating parties in relation to the policy and how it applies. So to get there, just to quickly comment on that, we did have an open house with all third parties. We asked them to attend. We were able to meet with them. We were able to follow up with them. They had a lot of good suggestions that were incorporated in this policy. We also sent it back out to them to have a look at. We worked some one-on-ones with some people that were a little more majorly concerned, but we were able to relay those fears by introducing some wording that made sure that it was clear and concise what they could do. And then we brought forward the last piece of it, and then we are here today with the amendment.
Okay. I don't see anybody in the queue for questions. One question though, you defined operating parties, but you didn't identify. So just tell me who a few of them would be.
They would be fee for service. They would be board operated facilities. So they would be like Nika Yuko's operated and run by their board. It would be YMCA, who's board ridden. There's fee-for-service groups like the soccer, which would also be included in this.
So this would be like giving the Southern Alberta Art Gallery a chance to rename a room inside their building, but not the overall building.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, just to make sure we all understand. Are there any other questions about this? Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for bringing this back to us. You've done a lot of work, and things look great in here. The one question I have is under the general section E, all political advertising must indicate that it's paid by a party or candidate to avoid any impression that the city is supporting any particular party or candidate. Since this is a city facility, help me understand how that will get past the perception that it's not the city supporting this. Will there be guidelines developed or something? To me, it's a concern that the public may not understand that even if it says it's paid by a party or candidate, that language isn't understood or being read by the public when they see that.
Yeah, so our plan was to, once this amendment was passed, that to set up some specific guidelines around the restrictions and then apply those within, just identifying very clearly how you must identify it, how you must separate the city in that area. So, yeah, in the policy though, we did have some extra wording in there, but for policy purposes, they felt that it needed to be clearer as a point here, and then those guidelines would be set up separately. Yep.
Thank you.
I don't see any other questions, so thank you, Mr. Oh, sorry, Councillor Middleton Hope.
Thanks, Chair. To Mr. Gallucci, Kim, how are we doing with the overall sponsorship model that you've been developing over the course of perhaps the last year or so. Are you ready to talk about it in terms of any successes that you might be seeing from it?
Yeah, well, in the last 6 months, we've just been, but yeah, actually, we've seen some small wins. We've generated within the MX Center itself an additional $67,000 in sponsorship. We are working with a number of different parties that allowed to develop some sponsorships with some park programs. Those are in the works right now. We were able to get sponsors for the play boxes that are free for people who can use them for use the tools or the sport equipment. And we've been able to refer one sponsor to the YM. There was a sponsor looking to sponsor a gymnasium, so we forwarded them to the YM to take a look. So we had some small wins. Right now we are looking at some for 2024, really looking at about $300,000 in proposals that we want to bring forward. Some are in front of some people, about 60,000 that would be in front of people, and we'll continue to build on that and hopefully get to that point by the end of 24 that we're confirming and have some in the pipe, and we are starting some new ideas.
Good. A secondary question that arises from that, you requested budgeting or funding for a position that was going to be doing, I think, the lion's share of the sponsorship activity and so forth. Are you up to speed with that position? You've hired that person is actively involved, or are we still waiting for that to come on stream?
Nope, that person is hired. They are working since May. It took them about 2 months to get set up kind of and working and introducing themselves to everyone, but I think we're well underway and in place, and they're working well. And we're starting to accelerate and pick up some more speed now on how proposals will be put together and how they'll be presented, and working with operating parties where we need to. And what we are discovering too is some of the renewals. We're backtracking, and we're finding a few more things than we thought. Originally, we thought there'd be some that didn't have paperwork and there's a few more than we thought. So we're backtracking, how did that sponsor come to be, and look at how we get those renewals up and going. Canola Harvest Park would be one example, where it does need a new sign, it needs a little facelift, and we're working on how did that come to be, and how do we get that sponsorship renewed and up and going. So that would be one example.
Good. I look forward to another update either later, well, probably won't be later this year, but next year.
Yeah, our plan is to bring something by the end of 24.
The vital
Okay,
importance of record keeping and corporate memory. It's amazing how important those records are to keep, or else, we don't know how long the agreements are, et cetera. So, thank you very much. I do have a motion from Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommend that City Council approve amendments to Policy CC 70, Sponsorship, Naming Rights, and Advertising as presented in Attachment 2. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. So we've heard an update on how things are going with sponsorships, naming rights, and advertising. We've also seen the update to the policy. And if my colleagues have no further questions or comments, I will call for the vote on this.
Question been called. All in favor? Perfect. Thank you very much, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. All right. So I'm going to assume you are here for the next one. So welcome up, Mr. Pitcher, sorry. And we will go on to community capital projects. If you want to explain to us why you are taking council's rights away. No, sir.
So I don't know that I'd necessarily put it that way. We're at this point, thank you. So we're coming today to request amendments to policy CC 26, which is the Community Capital Projects Grant Administration Policy. And At a high level, we're looking to amend the policy for several reasons. General housekeeping, I would say, is a large part of it. Clarifications of roles and responsibilities between city council, applicants, members of administration, city manager, as well as some changes to the policy that are a bit more substantive. One of them being, I think I'm making some assumptions here, the removal of city council as the approver of the scoring tool for the community capital projects grant applicants. So why remove city council as the approver of that scoring tool? Really, it's just to align with how we manage other grant funding within the department. For example, our department manages the Affordable and Social Housing Capital Grant, and that is a scoring tool that is administered by city administration. But above and beyond that, it also allows some level of flexibility for us to adapt to other co-funding opportunities that arise from other levels of government. The Community Capital Projects Grant can only fund up to 1/3 of capital expenses, and so by nature, it is meant to be used to leverage other funding sources. And as those funding sources roll out from other levels of government, we want to ensure that we're able to adapt and make sure that we're in alignment with those opportunities. One example is the CFEP program, which is the Community Facility Enhancement Program. Comes from the provincial government. They recently had an extension to that program, which was called the Community Recreation Center Infrastructure Fund. And so removing City Council from being the approver of that scoring tool allows us to make sure that we're aligned with those opportunities as they arise.
Thank you very much for that explanation. Are there any questions? Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the explanation on that. There will still then, just for my own clarification, it says removal of annual reporting to council. Will we no longer get a report or anything? So I guess my concern with that is how do I explain to residents when they have questions and I haven't seen a report or any indication of what's gone on with this?
Yeah, so previously there was reports that were coming into SPC on an annual basis showing the use of the funds on any given year. That is just meant to align with the corporate direction to remove annual reports in general, but we have also included every 4 years, there's a review of the policy itself built into the policy, which would include a review of the policy itself, but we could also certainly include the use of the funds at that point, or if we need to, we could also do annual reporting either through information update or to SPC if needed.
Yeah, I would think just to be transparent and maintain our communication with our residents who will have questions for us, that there is some kind of reporting, even if it's just a verbal or something, back to council so that we have that information should we be getting any questions.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'd like to go back to the broader statement, and this might be for some of the ELT on the staff. We're not getting rid of annual reporting on things. I would imagine we're still getting annual reports.
Just looking around the table to see. Thank you for the question, Councillor Croson. In that regard, so when it comes to financial reporting, we're definitely still receiving the financial reporting. So that would include both the unaudited reporting and the annual report. And as we just saw, I think it was just last week, it feels longer, September operating forecast last week. So there is opportunities to not only put some of the information in that fashion, if that kind of reporting wants out, it could go in that as well too.
So it's more a matter of where it will be reported and how, rather than the fact that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I'm looking to my colleague here, on it, but that is an option. So there is an option there we could take a look. So if there's a desire to have a report out and it's more about how we've spent the dollars, then I would think the unaudited report would be a great place to add that to.
Okay, I think Councillor Schmidt-Rempel wants to follow up on that as well.
Yeah, because the statement in here, and I did get some phone calls on removal of annual reporting to council in alignment with corporate direction to not provide annual reports to city council. One of the questions I got was, when did council approve not having reports coming back to them? And I don't recall that ever happening. I mean, I don't recall council ever approving that. So I do think that in full transparency, to our residents, there needs to be some kind of annual reporting that does come back to council, because the way this looks is that council is completely removed from the process, and that we will never get the information back on any of these processes. And then the other perception is that, I mean, the blunt question I got is, why did I elect you if administration is removing you from that process? To which, this is the conversation we're having, is ensuring that we are getting some kind of reporting back to us so that we can have those discussions and make sure that our residents know what is going on with their dollars.
And to respond to that, I would just maybe note that historically, the CCPG itself has come in a standalone item to council or SPC. And I think that's the piece, I think Mr. Matthews hit the nail on the head. If there was a desire to have that going back, we would just have to look at what manner that comes back in.
I have a feeling Mr. Brierley would like to weigh in on this.
I didn't hear everything, so
It's just, the way it was written in the report, it sounded like there is just going to be no reporting to council at all. And I think we're trying to figure out exactly what that reporting means with connection with this grant, but in general. There you go.
To both members of governance SBC, where am I today? So yes, what I think probably going to this piece here, so we definitely provide annual reporting. And that's not changing on the financial. That is part of the resolutions from council to provide annual financial reporting. It probably sounds like it's, for efficiency standpoint for administration, adding it into our audit, it probably is the most efficient way of doing it, because we're already providing that, and it comes at the time of the year where we'd be closing off our financial information. So if that's conducive to members of Governance Standing Policy Committee, that's what we would recommend to move forward.
Yeah, and I think when we read into it, that it is that statement, removal of annual reporting to City Council in alignment with corporate direction to not provide annual reports to City Council. That did raise a lot of concerns in the public, that all of a sudden, nobody's going to tell council anything that's going on, and through us, the public. And I know it is not in the policy itself, it's in the summary. But if that could somehow be clarified before this goes to council, because that did raise a lot of concerns, that you were just going to skip over council and just go on your merry way, which I know was not the intention, but comes across in that respect. Mr. Brierley?
now I'm up to speed. No, it's when we're talking about legislative information, financial, decision-making information, that would come to council. What we're talking about is information that is administrative in nature, non-decision-making, operational. That creates unnecessary work and effort that can be better used for other purposes. So that's the differentiation.
Yeah, and that's perfectly understandable. It's just it's not what the summary actually seems to say, and that's where we need some clarification on there. Yeah, that was the only difficulty. And I'm sure you can all imagine, we did get called on that in the public going, what role do you guys have? So we're all good on that? Councillor Schmidt-Rempel?
And then I think just watching out for that sort of thing in the future, because I certainly appreciate what Mr. Brierley is saying and what Mr. Pitcher says, in that this will allow for more flexibility, you to be more nimble with things coming, with items coming across your desk. So I appreciate that, but making sure that we are watching that wording when this sort of thing comes forward to council again, and making sure that this is clarified for the next council meeting, that council is not being cut out, that this is to allow for that flexibility and the ability to be nimble, but we still will get the information.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Dodick has just stepped away from his chair completely. Councillor Middleton Hope, any questions? In protest. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming down and answering questions on something you didn't bring forward. All right, so I'm actually the one moving this. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommend that City Council approve amendments to Policy CC 26, Community Capital Projects Grant, as presented in Attachment 2. The only thing, and I know it is, I said just a summary, but I think you will probably get the same questions when this goes to council from our colleagues as you got from us, if we don't just clarify that. That's what I mean. So amending the resolution to change out that part of the summary, and does that make sense to how to do it? Okay. Mr. Westerson?
Sorry, I talked a little loud into that.
You never know how loud you're going to be or
Sorry,
not.
we did some updates in here the other day, and obviously we missed one template here. I stepped around the back there, but what I'm hearing is just let's amend the resolution, capital grants as presented in attachment 2 with the amendment in the
summary
to
document.
the summary document reflecting that annual reporting will still come forward to council on legislative matters.
Well, it's in a matter appropriate.
In a matter
It's-
appropriate?
it's-
Okay,
Yeah,
sure. Thank you.
okay.
Ms. Brown will have that on the screen.
We don't want to stop the work, but we don't want to be out of the loop entirely. Okay.
Stepped around at the wrong time.
That's okay. Are we okay with the amended? Okay, I will call the question. All in favor? Excellent. And then the last thing is what we added to the agenda. Oh, we have some motions coming out of closed, and then we will do the added one. So be it resolved, this is coming out of closed session 8.1, NMAX Center Master Plan Council Engagement, moved by myself. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee refer the feedback provided on the NMAX Center Master Plan in closed session to administration to inform plan development. And further be it resolved that Governance Standing Policy Committee direct that the closed meeting reports, documents, presentations, and discussions with respect to the NMAX Center Master Plan Council Engagement remain confidential pursuant to Sections 24, Advice from Officials, and 25, Harmful to Economic and Other Interests of Public Body of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. All in favor? Excellent. So that has moved. And coming out of the closed section, City of Lethbridge Advocacy Plans, 8.2, moved by Councillor Dodick. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommends that City Council adopt the attached confidential City of Lethbridge Advocacy Plans as provided in confidential attachments 1 to 3. And further be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee direct that the closed meeting reports, documents, and discussions with respect to the City of Lethbridge Advocacy Plan remain confidential pursuant to Sections 21, Advice from Officials, and 24, Advice from Officials. I'm sure it's both 24. 21 is harmful to intergovernmental affairs, and 24, Advice from Officials of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. We will get that amended, but Councillor Dodick?
Yes, thank you. I can't say self-explanatory because I can't tell you what it's about, but I'd call the question.
Okay, question's been called. All in favor? Excellent. And then 8.3, closed meeting intergovernmental meetings. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee direct that the closed meeting documents, discussions with respect to the intergovernmental meeting remain confidential pursuant to Section 21, which is harmful to intergovernmental relations, 23, local body, public body confidence, and 24, advice from officials of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. We will have to make a slight amendment there because we have 21 and 24 the same again. And this one's coming from Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel?
I'll call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? Excellent. And we went slightly out of order. I apologize. We added a 7.4 at the request of Councillor Middleton Hope, who wanted to discuss the two surveys on the Local Authorities Election Act and Municipal Government Act. So, Councillor Middleton Hope, you wanted to just bring that forward, I think partly to make sure everybody was aware of it and to see, I think, what your colleagues thought of it.
Certainly. It'd be interesting to see what my colleagues do think of it.
Well, Councillor Dodick says he hasn't seen them yet. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel just thinks they are a survey. But if you want to talk a little bit about what's being asked in the survey and by whom the survey is being done.
There we go. No, not at this point. I would like to bring this back as an item in the future, Madam Chair, after members of our committee have had an opportunity to review the material.
Remember, we don't meet again until February, and these surveys are due by the 6th of December. Yeah, you can find them on various things. They're out, the province of Alberta has requested that the public let them know and give feedback on the Local Authorities Elections Act and the Municipal Government Act. Probably the main concern that people are expressing is the question about whether or not there should be political parties at the municipal level. But it's basically asking the public what changes they might want to see and their things about how municipal government works. And I think the idea was, one, to make people aware of it, and two, more awareness than anything else.
And they actually expect that people will understand Local Authorities Elections Act and the nuances of the Municipal Government Act? I guess that's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, it's a rhetorical
Yeah.
question, but those are what the two surveys are on. You can find, Alberta Municipalities has been sharing it. You can find links on their website, and many of our colleagues across the province have been sharing them as well.
Well, right after this meeting, I will scoot right on this site and put in my views.
And, hopefully the public will have a look at them as well. But I was reading somewhere, again, take things online as you go, but they were trying to interview one municipal councillor in Alberta who thought political parties were a good idea, and they couldn't find anybody. So that in itself may be suggestive of the concerns.
Madam,
Councillor Middleton Hope.
yeah, Madam Chair, thanks very much. I'm not sure that's necessarily reflective of all political, whether they're municipal, well, they would be municipal politicians across the province or not. I think the reality is this is a discussion that needs to be had, because this is likely going to be the case in 2025, whether we like it or not. And so I think there needs to be some dialogue around this.
Which is why you requested it go on the agenda. So what were your concerns? Why did you want to discuss it?
Well, I think it's an important discussion, because I think whether we agree with the initiative of what appears to be the provincial government in terms of establishing a political party, quote unquote, system for the cities of Calgary and Edmonton, the maneuvering within many municipalities is moving towards an alignment of political stripes as it is, and whether or not we as a city are interested in pursuing that and being a part of it, or whether we don't want to be a part of it.
Well, and I think all we can do is just make people aware, because whatever changes are made to the legislation, we follow.
True enough. I think it is something that is going to be raised by the province. It's going to be one of those discussion topics, and it'll likely be a hot button topic in the future. I'm just thinking in terms of council's interest in being a part of that discussion one way or the other. So we can leave it at that. But it is simply making this committee aware and council aware that this is obviously on the horizon, that is going to gain traction in terms of conversation. It may die a natural death before the next election. It may not. I think it's just something that we should have some discussions about. But thank you very much for allowing me to vent.
Venting is important as well. I understand that. But I think we don't have a formal motion, but I think the only motion is to accept his information, Mr. Westerson. Okay, and we will make that from Councillor Middleton Hope to accept 7.4 as information. Councillor Middleton Hope, are you fine with that motion?
I am fine.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I call the question. The question's been called. And Mr. Westerson was also just reminding me that he will circulate the link, so Councillor Dodick, you don't have to go look for it. Mr. Westerson will make sure that gets out to anyone who is interested. And we are adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Chair.